Hello everyone. Thank you for tuning in to another chapter of Books and Brown Liquor. It's your girl Tanya, and this video is my book review of, no, I'm sorry, my bad. This is my book wrap up for the month of August. Okay, so these are all the books I read in August. I know it's a little bit late, but child, I've been busy reading and going to the bookstore, buying more books. All right, so anyway, my books for August. I feel like August was such a good reading month for me. I thoroughly enjoyed all my readings in August. Okay, so the first book, White Smoke by Tiffany D. Jackson. Our main character, Marigold. She moves from California to start afresh in the Midwest, which I keep saying I think is Detroit, or like a town in Michigan. Her mother gets the opportunity to get like this residency where they live in this house for free as long as her mother keeps this job. What they don't tell her is that the history of this house, there's some history there, not going to go into detail, but the town of Cedarville, there's some stuff going on. Of course, they don't tell them that either. They find out later that she was weird. And of course, Marigold, our main character, is the first to notice. She suspects there's something going on in the house. She is right, but it's not what you think it is. That's all I'm gonna say. So I like the characters. I like the fact that it's a young adult book, so even though it was a really good, well-paced story, it did have some thriller in it, but it wasn't like too scary. And I feel like the characters, all their activities were age appropriate. And I really enjoyed the writing. This is the first book I read by Tiffany D. Jackson, and I loved it. Loved it, loved it, loved it. So I gave this book 5 stars. I loved the thrill factor. I loved the little mystery that was going on in the small town. And I really like the characters. So not gonna spend too much time on that, but I loved White Smoke, Tiffany D. Jackson. Moving on. All right. My next book, When No One Is Watching by Alyssa Cole. To sum this up, when gentrification goes wrong. Now, I don't know if gentrification ever goes right, because basically gentrification is when you have a low-income neighborhood or a neighborhood that's not valued, so to speak. And then these companies or these builders come in, kick all the old people out, start building up Trader Joe's and Starbucks and shit, and basically kick all the residents out because we're about to build condos and, you know, have scooters and lap dogs and bullshit like that. Anyway, that was my summary of gentrification. Our main character is Sydney Green. She recently moves back to her Brooklyn neighborhood, moves back into her mom's old home. She notices that there are changes going on in the neighborhood. The problem is they are happening very quickly, and she smells a rat. Okay, these changes are definitely, what do you call that? Unethical. Like neighbors are just disappearing left and right, just like that, like literally overnight. She has a few Karen moments, right? She has some Karen moments. She has some moments where, you know, being a Black woman, if you speak up and say something, you're being aggressive. Oh my God, call the police, I feel threatened, like that type of bullshit in her own neighborhood. So the story, I like it a lot. I did like it a lot. It's categorized as a thriller. I found it completely entertaining. I don't really feel like, I guess it was a thriller, but it wasn't that scary to me. It was kind of more like a mystery, sort of, but I get why it's called a thriller. So, like I said, Sydney smells a rat and she starts doing some digging. And of course, once you start digging, there's people that don't want you to. So not going to go into detail about that. I enjoyed the story. The ending was like not Tyler Perry, I'm sorry. The ending was like a Jordan Peele movie. It was like, either you loved it or you didn't. For me, it reminded me of a Jordan Peele movie, and it was a little over the top. The ending was a little over the top. They were pushing it with that conclusion, but overall I enjoyed the book. Gave it a 4 stars. Yeah, so when gentrification goes wrong, pretty much, that sums that up. Moving on. My next book. Verity by Colleen Hoover. Everybody and their mother is talking about Verity. Everybody and their mother has read Verity. So I was like, yo, I gotta read Verity. I wanna know what the hype is about, okay? It lived up to the hype. I fucking loved it. I could not put it down, all right? And I did a review on this already. Ignore the bike. Anyway, I did a review on this already. Our main character is Lowen Ashley. She is a writer and her writing career is basically not happening right now. The money is drying up, the books are not selling, and she gets the opportunity to complete a book series. Verity is like a well-known author. She is currently undergoing some health conditions where she is unable to finish a book series that she started. So the publisher pays Lowen a handsome sum to basically pick up where Verity left off and complete this book series, because that's what publishers do. So in order to do her research, she's going through Verity's office, going through her notes, and she comes across a manuscript that is absolutely madness. This manuscript is life-changing. She picks up this manuscript, she starts reading, she cannot put it down. And as the reader, as she reads this manuscript, you're like, it's intoxicating. Like I said in my book review, it's intoxicating because the stuff you're reading is absolutely shocking, but it's also very dark and it is disturbing. Basically, it's like memoirs of a psychopath, basically. So she reads this memoir and she's like, what the fuck? Anyway, I don't want to give too much away because I think it's worth it. I think the story is worth it. So when you get to the end of the book, and all of these events have taken place, I'm not going to go into detail. All these events have taken place. And when you get to the end of the book, you're left with this question in your mind. Who is Verity really? That's all I'm gonna say. 5 stars, 5 stars, 5 stars. I loved it, but I love books with crazy psycho bitches, so I absolutely loved it. But this is probably one of the craziest things I've ever read. Okay, so like I said, when you get to the book conclusion, you are going to be asking yourself, who is Verity really? That's all I'm gonna say. All right. Moving on. My next book was, oh God, The Inmate by Frida McFadden. Now this is the only book I've read by this author. I'm actually gonna get started on another one of her books because I know I kind of trashed this book in my book review. But the main character got on my nerves, and I think I made that very clear in my last video. But the main character, Brooke Sullivan, she is a nurse practitioner at a prison, a maximum security prison. One of the inmates there, she helped put him away due to her testimony. And she starts developing mixed feelings toward this inmate that killed all these people. And the plot, the premise, it seemed like it was going to be really, really good. But the entire time I was cringing. I found that she was just like not the sharpest tool in the shed. That annoyed me. I made that very clear in my last video. But her decision making, the things she did, and then at the end, when they hit you with the plot twists, they were not believable to me. So I'm just gonna leave it at a 3. And that's me being generous because I'm in a really good mood. I didn't really care for this book that much, but I'm gonna try another Frida McFadden book because I feel like she must be a good author because I hear a lot of really good reviews about her other books. So I think the next book I'm gonna read by her is The Housemaid. I've heard great things about The Housemaid. We're gonna give that a go. So I'm not giving up on Frida McFadden yet. The Inmate. That concludes that. The next book, Monday's Not Coming by Tiffany D. Jackson. Our main character is a young girl by the name of Claudia. Her best friend does not show up for the first day of school, which is unheard of. You know, after the summer, you can't wait to get to school with your new clothes and see your old friends, right? Her best friend doesn't come to school the first day, the second day, the third day, and the days keep rolling by. And no one else seems to notice. No one else seems to care, really. This book is difficult to read. It's really well written. The characters are very relatable. The characters are very believable, but it's a difficult read because as a reader, you can see there are signs that this girl was in trouble, but no one really does anything. So as I was saying in my last video, just because a person comes to school with a smile on their face, it doesn't mean they're okay. Okay, so if you are ever in a situation where a young girl, you suspect something is wrong and you're wondering, should I do something? Yes, you should do something. Yes, you should say something, okay? But I think this girl, I think she just felt like she didn't have a lot of options. She felt trapped in her situation. And it was actually really, it made my heart ache from beginning to end. And then when you get to the conclusion and you discover all of the revelations, it made my heart ache. It was difficult to read, but it was a good story because stories like this need to be told. The world is not always safe for little girls. The world is not safe for girls, especially Black girls, because when they go missing, ain't nobody looking for them. This book was a 5. 5. And that's all I have to say about that. I really think if you haven't read Monday's Not Coming, you should, but prepare yourself. There are difficult topics. There are topics of child abuse, child endangerment, and more. So if that is too much for you, you've been warned. But I think it's an important story to read because, like I said, the world ain't safe for young girls, okay? And then my last book, Layla. Oh, sorry. Layla by Colleen Hoover. This book is categorized as a paranormal love story. When I think of that, the first thing that came to mind was the movie Ghost and Wuthering Heights. So I was like, a paranormal love story? How? How? I'll tell you how. The story is told from a man's perspective. He meets a girl, they fall in love, and she's undergoing some health issues. So he decides he's going to take her back to the bed and breakfast where they first met so they can rekindle their romance. But there's activity going on in the house. Like there's noises and movement, and it's very clear there is a presence in the house. And he starts communicating with the presence in the house. Because why not, right? What the fuck? I'm like, what? He got on my last nerve. He absolutely got on my last nerve. There's no way I want to communicate with you. Bitch, get out. Open a window, sage the joint, be done. But for some reason, he just feels this connection to want to communicate with this paranormal situation, if you will. Like I said in my book review video, in the middle of the book, I wanted to kick him in the head. I felt like he was so ridiculous. But then when you get to the end of the book and you reach your climactic event, if you will, followed by the conclusion, it made sense. For me, this was a 3.5. I did not hate this book, but I'm not real big on romance, but I feel like with the paranormal twist and all the other things that took place, I didn't hate it. So I will say I'm glad I read it because it was interesting and it was unique. Because sometimes when you read a certain genre, you feel like you're reading the same book over and over and over, just with different names. I will say this book was very unique. So I'll give her credit for that. Excuse me, but I give it a 3.5. And I'm not mad I read it though. I'm glad I read it. I thought it was very interesting. But like I said, if you don't read all the way to the end for the conclusion, it's not gonna make sense to you. And you're gonna be like, fuck this, okay? So just if you do read it, make sure you get all the way to the end and then draw your own conclusion. And that's all I got. That completes my book wrap up for the month of August. All in all, I think it was a very good month. I am looking forward to September. September has already been very enjoyable. and I'm only 2 books in. So anyway, thank you for watching. I wish you good reading. Bye.